I'm Lisa, and let me just say this right off the bat. I never thought I'd end up on a subreddit like this. I was always the peacekeeper in my family, the one who tried to smooth things over, even when things were clearly falling apart. I always believed that family was everything, that no matter how bad things got, we'd always have each other's backs. Well, if you told me a year ago that I'd be sitting here, writing this, I would have laughed. But here we are. This all started on Thanksgiving, about 6 months ago. Thanksgiving's supposed to be the time when families come together, right? Well, for me, it was the day everything unraveled. The day I realized that maybe, just maybe, my family wasn't what I thought it was. It all started with a phone call. A couple of days before Thanksgiving, my parents called me to let me know they wouldn't be able to come visit this year. I wasn't entirely shocked. My parents had been getting older, and traveling had been a struggle for them in the past couple of years, but it still stung. I've always been the one who tries to get everyone together. I mean, we live in different states, so it's not like we can just pop over to each other's houses anytime we want. But Thanksgiving, for me, was sacred. That was the one time of year I could count on everyone being there. So when my mom said, "We just can't make it this year, honey. Money's tight," I tried to be understanding. "Of course, Mom," I said. "I get it. I'll miss you, but I totally understand. We'll figure something out." But then I got a text from my brother, John, a few hours later. Now, John and I have always had a complicated relationship. He's the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. He was the one who got straight A's, went to a fancy college, and somehow always seemed to have life figured out. Meanwhile, I was the one who struggled to pay bills, juggled 2 jobs, and had a kid to take care of. Still, I never begrudged John for his success. I just wished he'd have my back more, especially when it came to family. Anyway, John's text wasn't anything unusual at first. He just mentioned that he wasn't sure if he was going to make it to Thanksgiving dinner at Mom and Dad's house this year. But then came the kicker. "I'm probably going to head to the Hamptons for the holiday," he wrote. "Might just go on a spontaneous trip. Clear my head. It's been a crazy year." I stared at my phone for a minute, trying to wrap my head around what he'd just said. The Hamptons? Really? My parents had just told me they couldn't afford to visit me, yet John was talking about going on a fancy getaway? It didn't sit right with me, but I pushed it aside, thinking maybe he was just joking. The next few days were a blur. I had a million things to do to get ready for Thanksgiving. Cleaning the house, buying groceries, figuring out what to make for dinner. But in the back of my mind, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. My daughter, Mia, was beyond excited for Thanksgiving. She's 8 years old, and she's the sweetest, most compassionate kid you'd ever meet. She's the kind of child who believes in the magic of family, who thinks that if we all just put in a little effort, everything will be okay. I wish I could say I still had that same belief. The morning of Thanksgiving, I was up early, putting the turkey in the oven and setting the table, when Mia came into the kitchen with her sad little face. She wasn't crying, but I could tell she was disappointed. "Mom," she said quietly, "why aren't Grandma and Grandpa coming for dinner?" I paused for a moment, unsure of how to answer. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that her grandparents, who were always there before, weren't coming this year because they couldn't afford it? I didn't want to make her feel like it was her fault, or that we were somehow less important than, well, whatever my parents were spending their money on. I knelt down to her level and smiled, even though it was the last thing I wanted to do. "Grandma and Grandpa are just having a quiet year, sweetie," I said. "But don't worry. We're going to have a great time, okay?" She didn't say much after that, but I could tell she was upset. Still, I did my best to carry on with the day. We ate a simple meal, just Mia and me, and even though I tried to keep the mood light, it wasn't the same without my parents or John. I kept thinking about what my mom had said, about how they couldn't come because they didn't have the money. It felt like a punch to the gut. A few days later, I was scrolling through social media, mostly just killing time while Mia played with her toys, when I saw it. My heart sank as I clicked on a post from my mom. There they were, in the Hamptons, sitting at a lavish dinner table surrounded by bottles of wine, gourmet food, and grinning faces. In the caption, she wrote, "Best Thanksgiving with family." My stomach dropped. Best Thanksgiving with family. She couldn't even come visit me, her daughter, but she had no problem flying halfway across the country to enjoy Thanksgiving with my brother. I stared at the photo for what felt like an eternity. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't part of that family anymore. But what really killed me wasn't just that they'd lied to me. It was the realization that my parents had always done this. They had always chosen John. They had always made excuses for him. And even though I worked my tail off to keep things together, I was the one who always came last. The more I looked at the picture, the angrier I got. It wasn't just about Thanksgiving. It was about a lifetime of being second best, of being the one who was always overlooked. And to top it all off, there was John, of course, standing front and center, looking like he was living the life. Mia, ever the perceptive child, peeked over my shoulder and saw the post. "Why aren't we family too?" she whispered, so quietly I almost didn't hear her. I swallowed hard, trying to keep it together. "We are, sweetie," I said, though I didn't believe it for a second. "We're definitely family." But as I sat there, looking at that picture, I knew something had to change. I wasn't going to keep pretending. Not anymore. The next few days were a whirlwind. I went from numb disbelief to boiling anger. I couldn't stop thinking about what I had seen on social media. That best Thanksgiving with family post haunted me. The worst part? My mom's smile in that picture was so fake. It was the kind of smile she gave when she was trying to convince herself of something. Maybe she was trying to convince herself that everything was fine, that they hadn't abandoned me again. But Mia was the one who really broke my heart. She didn't say much after that quiet question, "Aren't we family too?" But I could tell it stuck with her. She was too young to fully understand the complexities of family dynamics, but she wasn't blind. She could see that Grandma and Grandpa were having a grand old time without her. That night, I tucked Mia into bed, kissed her goodnight, and sat in the living room in a daze. I should have been doing something productive, folding laundry, finishing up work, but instead, I kept thinking about how I was going to respond. Should I reach out to my parents? Call them out on their hypocrisy? Or just let it go and pretend everything was fine? I wanted to confront them. I wanted to scream, "How could you do this to me?" But something inside me told me that it wouldn't make a difference. They'd apologize, of course. My mom would cry, say she was sorry, tell me how much she loved me. And John? He'd play the victim, of course. I didn't know Mom and Dad were struggling. You know how they are. They didn't want to ruin your Thanksgiving. And I would just sit there, feeling like the fool I always felt like when it came to them. But this time, something was different. I was done being the fool. I didn't call them. Instead, I decided to do something I hadn't done in a long time. I focused on myself. I poured my energy into making sure Mia and I were okay. I took a day off work and treated us to a little spa day, something small but just for us. The next day, I got an email from my mom, asking how Mia was doing. She didn't ask about me, though. Just Mia. I felt that familiar knot in my stomach. But this time, it wasn't anger. It was sadness. I had given so much of myself to this family over the years, and all I had to show for it was a series of broken promises and empty words. A few days later, I got a call from John. I answered with a flat, "Hello." "Hey, sis." His voice was annoyingly chipper, like nothing was wrong. "So listen, I was thinking, we should all get together for Christmas. It's been too long, right? Maybe we could go all out this year, do something big. You know, a family trip to Europe or something." I stared at my phone for a second. I didn't know what was worse, the fact that he thought I'd be excited about his idea, or the fact that he genuinely thought I'd forget everything that had happened. I wasn't some doormat to be walked on anymore. "John," I said, my voice calm but firm, "I don't think that's going to work out this year." He laughed, like I was joking. "Come on, don't be like that. It's just a little holiday fun. You know, we all deserve a break." I bit my lip to keep from snapping. No thanks. I don't need a family trip to feel appreciated, especially when I've been the one left behind every single time. There was a long pause. I could tell he hadn't expected that response. "What do you mean?" he asked, sounding almost annoyed. "You know exactly what I mean," I said. "Thanksgiving. The Hamptons. Your perfect life. Do you think I didn't notice that? Do you think I didn't see how you and Mom just glossed over the fact that I was here, alone, with Mia? That you couldn't even bother to show up or send a text? And then you want to act like nothing happened? Lisa, come on. Mom and Dad were just—" "No," I cut him off. "Don't you dare defend them. They make excuses for you, but I'm the one who gets the leftovers." "Well, not anymore." There was another long silence. I could hear him shuffling around, probably trying to come up with a response. "Lisa, I didn't mean to hurt you, but you know how Mom and Dad are. They always get busy. You're always so busy too, with work and Mia. You know they love you, right? It's just complicated." I shook my head, even though he couldn't see me. "You don't get it, John. It's not complicated. They choose you. Every single time." I hung up before he could respond. I didn't need to hear any more empty words. I was tired of hearing excuses, tired of waiting for something that would never come. My mom and dad? They were the same people who had made me feel invisible my whole life. But I wasn't going to let them do that to me anymore. The next day, I did something that I never thought I'd do. I called a lawyer. I wasn't planning on cutting them off completely, not yet, at least. But I needed to protect myself. I needed to stop waiting for them to change and start living my own life. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of power, like I was finally taking control. A week later, I got another call. This time, it was from my mom. She sounded frantic. "Lisa, honey, we need to talk. We've been thinking about what happened at Thanksgiving, and we want to make it right. Can we meet? Please? We've been so upset over this." I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing. Upset? Really? They were upset now? "I don't think there's anything left to talk about, Mom," I said, my voice cold. "You've made your choices. But we're family," she exclaimed, like that was the magic word that would fix everything. I paused. My heart was pounding in my chest. I looked over at Mia, who was playing in the other room, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing. I knew what I had to do. "We're done," I said. The words felt like they had been waiting to leave my mouth for years. "I'm done trying to make it work. I'm done being your second choice." There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. "Lisa, please don't say that. We love you. We're sorry." I hung up before they could say anything else. I couldn't listen to it. The lies, the excuses, the hollow promises. It wasn't long after that when I started to feel free. But, of course, it wasn't over yet. The next few days were eerily quiet. I had cut my parents out of my life, and while part of me felt a strange sense of liberation, another part felt the sting of loneliness. It was as if I had taken a hammer and smashed the foundation of my family. Was this really the right choice? Mia didn't seem to notice much at first. She was still young enough that her world didn't revolve around family drama. She spent her days playing with her toys, watching cartoons, and asking if she could have ice cream for dinner. But I noticed the small things. Like when she asked why Grandma and Grandpa hadn't come by for a visit in so long. I'd try to make light of it. "They're just really busy, sweetie. But we'll see them soon." I kept telling myself that too. That this was just temporary. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. I had made my decision. I was done with the constant disappointment. Done with the empty promises and the emotional roller coaster. I wasn't just shutting them out because of Thanksgiving. It had been years of neglect, years of being the afterthought, the "you're too busy" child. I wasn't going to let them make me feel small anymore. But then, a few days after I hung up on my mom, I got an unexpected visitor. It was late in the afternoon when the doorbell rang. I was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner when I heard it. I didn't even need to look through the peephole. I already knew who it was. I opened the door to find my mom and dad standing there. They looked different, more haggard than I remembered. My mom's makeup was smeared, like she had been crying, and my dad looked uncharacteristically subdued. For a second, I almost felt bad. Almost. "Lisa," my mom began, her voice wavering. "We came to apologize." I stood there, arms crossed, not letting them in. "For what, exactly?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "For everything," she said, sniffling. "For not being there when you needed us. For letting you down. We were wrong. We've been talking, and we just want to fix things. Please, can we sit down and talk?" My dad added in a softer tone, "We made a mistake, Lisa. We were wrong. But we're family. We shouldn't have let you feel like this." I took a deep breath, trying to hold my composure. The temptation to let them in was strong. I could already imagine how they would try to charm me. My mom would probably cry, and my dad would apologize in his quiet, guilt-ridden way. Maybe they'd even offer to pay for a fancy vacation or a new car to make it right. They loved to do that, throw money at the problem and think that would fix everything. But it wasn't just about the money. It was about respect. And they had taken that from me. "No," I said, shaking my head. "I don't think I can do this right now. You've had years to make it right, and you didn't. I can't just pretend everything is okay because you feel guilty now." My mom's face fell, and I could see the tears starting to form in her eyes. "Lisa, please," she whispered. "We love you. We're sorry. You're our daughter. We made a mistake, and we're asking for a chance to fix it." My dad, who had remained unusually quiet up until this point, finally spoke. "Lisa, I know we've messed up, but please don't shut us out. We want to be a part of your life again. We want to make things right. We'll do anything. Just let us try." I stood there for a moment, not sure what to say. Everything inside me was screaming to say something, to tell them how much they had hurt me, to call them out for what they'd done. But I held back. I looked over at Mia, who had quietly walked up behind me and was now standing by my side, looking curiously at my parents. She didn't speak, but her wide eyes said everything. She was still too young to understand the full complexity of family dynamics, but even she could sense the tension. "Mia," I said softly, "why don't you go to your room for a bit? She nodded and walked away, leaving me alone with my parents. The air felt heavy, and I could tell that they were waiting for me to cave. But this time, I wasn't going to give in. I don't want your apologies, I said, my voice steady. I want respect. I want to be a priority in your lives, not a backup. I'm tired of always being the one who gets pushed aside. My dad stepped forward slightly, his face etched with regret. I know we've hurt you, and I know we've let you down. I'm sorry for that. But Lisa, you're still our daughter. You matter to us. You don't get it, I said, my voice breaking for the first time. If I matter to you, why do I always feel like an afterthought? Why is it always John, or Mia, or the next family gathering that gets all your attention? Why am I always left out in the cold? They both fell silent. My mom wiped her eyes, her makeup running even more. I don't know what to say, she whispered. I swallowed hard, trying to hold back my emotions. You don't have to say anything. You've already said enough. It was then that I realized something. This wasn't just about them. It was about me. About my boundaries. About knowing when to stop giving people chances when they've shown you who they really are. My mom looked like she was about to say something more, but I stopped her. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending that everything's okay. And I don't know if I can forgive you right now. Maybe one day, but not today. Their faces fell. They looked like they'd just been slapped across the face. But there was something else in their eyes, too. Something I hadn't seen in years, guilt. Real guilt. And for the first time, I felt like they were finally getting a taste of what I had been living with all this time. Maybe we'll talk again soon, my dad said, his voice quieter now. But we'll leave you be for now. I nodded and closed the door, locking it behind me. I leaned against it, trying to calm my racing heart. I had done it. I had finally stood up for myself. After closing the door on my parents, I didn't feel the usual rush of guilt or doubt that I had come to expect whenever I set a boundary. Instead, there was this quiet sense of strength that settled over me. Mia and I went on with our routine, and despite the initial tension of the confrontation, life carried on. For a while, I didn't hear from my parents. I expected the usual passive-aggressive texts from my mom or the half-hearted, guilt-ridden phone calls from my dad, but there was nothing. It was as if they had accepted the fact that I had finally cut them off. A week went by, and just when I thought I could finally breathe without the constant family drama hanging over me, I got a text from my sister. I hadn't spoken to her in months. She and I weren't close, to say the least, but somehow she always managed to reach out when there was trouble brewing with our parents. Hey, I know things are strained, but I really think you should talk to Mom and Dad. They're not doing well. They miss you, and they're really upset. I don't want to see this tear our family apart. I stared at the message for a while, not sure how to respond. Part of me felt sympathy, but another part of me felt like this was just another one of their manipulative tactics. They always pulled the family first card when they were desperate, and my sister, loyal to them no matter what, was always the one to play messenger. I debated for a long time about what to do. In the end, I decided to just ignore her. I wasn't about to fall back into the cycle of false promises. I was still angry, still hurt by what they'd done, and I wasn't ready to go back to the way things had been. But then, a few days later, something unexpected happened. I got a call from my mom. I almost didn't pick up, but for some reason, I did. Lisa, she said, her voice shaky. I need to apologize. We've been awful. I've been awful, and I'm so sorry for everything. I want to make things right. Please, let us try. I didn't respond right away. I wasn't ready to forgive them, and I wasn't ready to let them back into my life just because they were sorry. It wasn't that simple. I can't just forget everything, I finally said. I've been the one carrying this weight for years. You can't just show up now and expect me to welcome you with open arms. It doesn't work that way. There was a long pause on the other end of the line, and for a moment, I thought she was going to hang up. But then I heard her voice again, more desperate this time. Lisa, please. We love you. I know we messed up, but can't we start over? We're family, and that means something. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Part of me wanted to yell, to tell her everything I had been holding inside for so long. But then I thought about Mia, my daughter. How much did I want her to grow up knowing she had a family who loved her? Was I really willing to sever those ties completely, even with the pain they had caused me? I'll think about it, I said, my voice tight. But you need to understand something. If I let you back in, it's going to be on my terms. I'm not going to be anyone's emotional punching bag anymore. No more empty promises. If you want a relationship, you need to show me you're willing to work for it. There was a long silence, and then I heard my mom's voice, softer this time. Thank you, Lisa. We'll do whatever it takes. I ended the call without another word. As the days passed, I found myself reflecting on everything, on how my family had treated me, on how I had allowed myself to be the one who always gave in, always forgave. But now, I had the power, and I wasn't going to give it away again. I wasn't sure what would happen next. Would they truly change? Would I ever be able to forgive them fully? I didn't know, and I didn't need to know right now. But what I did know was that I wasn't going to let them control my life anymore. I had made that decision for me and Mia and for my own peace of mind. So, I'll leave it here for now. What do you all think? Was I too harsh? Should I have let them back in sooner? Or did I make the right choice by holding my ground? Would you ever consider cutting off family for your own sanity? Or is there a way to rebuild trust after years of disappointment? Let me know in the comments.